It all began a few months ago when I started helping out my sister with her 4-year-old son, Leo. She had just gone through a messy divorce and was juggling 2 jobs. So I offered to watch him during the evenings. I didn't mind. Leo was a smart, playful kid. I figured a few hours of cartoons, toys, and snacks wouldn't be too hard to handle. First, everything was normal. Typical kid stuff. But then I started noticing a pattern in the way he played. He would spend long stretches of time just sitting in his room, talking to himself in that animated way kids do when they're pretending. I figured he had invented an imaginary friend, like a lot of kids do. Nothing unusual, until it got specific. One night, as I was tidying up the living room, Leo came out of his room and said something that made me pause. He told me I was really good at driving, not just in general, but that I always avoided potholes and used my mirrors more than other people. He even described the keychain hanging from my rearview mirror, something I hadn't shown anyone since I got the car. That weird little moment stuck with me. I asked him where he heard that, and he shrugged, saying something like, "He told me." I assumed he meant his imaginary friend. I laughed it off, assuming he had somehow seen me driving, or maybe overheard me talking to my sister. But the next day it happened again. He mentioned my phone, said I shouldn't keep it in my back pocket because it was going to fall into the sink, which somehow it did. That same evening, I was definitely weirded out, but I still didn't think much of it. I told myself it was a coincidence. Kids are sharp. Maybe he picked it up from watching me more than I realized. I didn't believe in anything supernatural. Still don't. But something about the way he said it, so calm, so matter-of-fact, made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. A few days later, I asked him who he was. Leo looked up from his drawing and said it casually, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "Uncle Igor." Now, I don't have an Uncle Igor. No one in my family does. The name hit me like a cold gust of wind. I asked my sister about it, and she said she had no idea where Leo could have gotten that from. She laughed nervously, said he probably saw it on a cartoon. But when I mentioned it to my mom later that week, she went silent, just totally blank. Then she said, "That name sounds familiar," but she couldn't place it. That was the first moment I felt something shift. Like a floorboard beneath my feet had just cracked a little. I didn't know it yet, but that was the start of everything. And looking back, I should have taken it more seriously. By the way, if you're still watching this, now might be a good time to hit the like button and subscribe. I'm not trying to scare you for no reason. I just want you to hear this before something like this happens to you. Because trust me, I wouldn't be telling this story if it didn't get much, much worse. After that night, I couldn't stop thinking about the name, Uncle Igor. It looped in my head like an old melody I couldn't place. I even checked our family tree, called my grandma, asked my dad. Nobody remembered anyone with that name. Not a relative, not a family friend, nothing. But Leo said it with such certainty, like this Igor had always been part of our lives. That weekend, I stayed over at my sister's house to babysit Leo while she picked up an extra shift. It was raining hard, and the power kept flickering. The kind of night where everything just feels a little off, even if you don't know why. Leo was unusually quiet. No cartoons, no toys. He just sat at the kitchen table drawing with crayons. I asked what he was working on, and he said, "A map." I leaned over to see it. It was scribbles, mostly blue and red lines, a house in the center, and what looked like a tunnel underneath it. I asked what it was a map to, and without looking up, he said, "Where Uncle Igor sleeps." I felt a chill run through me. I asked him again who Uncle Igor was, and he responded, "He's the one who told me not to tell you everything yet. Not to tell me everything yet." That wording, it felt too precise for a 4-year-old. Too intentional. I asked what that meant, and he just kept coloring. No reaction. Nothing. Later that night, after Leo went to bed, I stayed in the living room watching a movie on my laptop. Around 1 a.m., I heard something fall in the hallway. A loud thud. I jumped up and went to check, thinking maybe Leo had gotten out of bed. But he was asleep. I checked on him. He was breathing calmly, blanket over his shoulders, same peaceful look as always. Then I saw it, the drawing, the map. It had been moved. I was sure I'd left it on the fridge with a magnet, but now it was lying on the hallway floor. And the red crayon lines had changed. They were thicker, darker, more chaotic, and a new symbol had been added, a crude eye drawn in the center of the tunnel. I should have left that night. I should have called my sister and told her I wasn't comfortable staying over anymore. But I didn't. I told myself I was just tired, that the map must have fallen off the fridge, that Leo probably scribbled on it before bed and I didn't notice. But deep down, something in me already knew. This wasn't just a game. Something or someone was trying to tell me that it had been watching, and that it wanted me to keep watching too. 3 days later, I returned to my sister's house. Not because I wanted to. I actually found myself looking for reasons not to go. But she had a doctor's appointment and asked if I could watch Leo for just a couple of hours. Couldn't say no. And honestly, a part of me wanted to see if anything weird would happen again. I guess I needed confirmation that I wasn't just imagining things. This time, I kept Leo in the living room with me the whole time. We played quietly. Nothing strange at first. He even seemed a little more like himself. Smiling, giggling a bit. Almost made me feel stupid for how tense I'd been. But then, while I was in the kitchen pouring juice, he said something that stopped me cold. "Uncle Igor said you're ready now." I froze. I didn't even ask what he meant. I just stared at him. Then he stood up and walked to the hallway. I followed him cautiously. He didn't say a word. He just walked straight to the end of the hall, to a door I had never paid attention to before. The basement. Leo reached for the handle and I instinctively grabbed his hand. "No," I said a little too sharply. He looked up at me, expressionless, and said, "But he's waiting." I didn't open the door. I carried him back to the living room and turned on the TV. I tried to distract both of us. But my heart was pounding. I kept glancing toward the hallway. That door. It wasn't just the way Leo had spoken. It was how the air had changed near it. The temperature, the silence, the feeling that someone was standing behind it, listening. When my sister came home, I told her everything. About the map, the name, the drawings, even the basement door. She got quiet, really quiet. Then she said something that made my skin crawl. "I've never been in the basement either," she whispered. "Not once. I always thought it felt wrong." I asked her what was down there, and she shrugged. "Storage, I guess? I don't know. I just never needed to go." That night I couldn't sleep. I kept picturing Leo's face, the way he said, "He's waiting." And I couldn't shake this growing sense that I wasn't just dealing with a child's imagination anymore. Something was calling through that basement door, and I had a feeling that sooner or later, I'd have to open it. I lasted for more days. For days of restless sleep, of jumping at every creak in my apartment, of checking my phone constantly expecting a message, or worse, a photo, from some unknown number. But nothing happened, and that silence made it worse. It was like the calm before something terrible. On the 5th day, I called my sister and asked if I could stop by. She said, "Sure," but sounded distracted, tired. I asked if everything was okay, and she paused before answering. "Leo's been different, quieter. And yesterday I found him just sitting in the hallway, staring at the basement door." That was it. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I told her to take Leo out for a walk, get some fresh air. She agreed without question. Maybe part of her was relieved. So I arrived with a flashlight and a crowbar. I don't know what I expected. A locked door. Something dramatic. But it wasn't locked. It opened like any other door, almost too easily. And behind it, stairs disappeared into pitch blackness. The air coming up was thick. Still, like a basement that hadn't been touched in years. I took a deep breath and stepped down. The smell hit me first, damp wood, mold, and something older, like earth that had been disturbed. The flashlight flickered as I moved further down. The walls were lined with old boxes, some broken open, filled with dusty toys and yellowed books. It looked like storage, sure, but none of it belonged to my sister. It was older, much older. Then I saw it. In the far corner, there was a space cleared out, like someone had deliberately moved things aside. In the center of that empty space, there was a wooden chair, and on the chair was a photo. It was of a man, pale, eyes almost shut, wearing a dark suit that looked 100 years out of place. And under it, scribbled in childlike handwriting, Uncle Igor. I didn't even want to touch it, but something about it felt familiar, uncomfortably familiar. I backed away slowly, and that's when I heard the footsteps, soft, bare, coming down the stairs behind me. I turned fast, flashlight trembling, expecting my sister or Leo, but the stairs were empty. Still, the sound continued, closer, louder, and then a voice whispered from the dark corner, "Now you see me." I ran, didn't look back, didn't close the door. I just got out of that house and drove home, not stopping once. That night I had a dream, or maybe it wasn't a dream. I was lying in bed, and I couldn't move, like something was sitting on my chest. And I swear I saw that same man from the photo standing at the end of my bed. And the worst part? He was smiling. After that night, I didn't sleep properly for weeks. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd see him, that same pale man from the photo in the basement, always standing still, watching, smiling, but not in any kind of human way. It was like he knew something I didn't, like he was waiting. I tried to tell myself it was sleep paralysis, stress, trauma, that maybe my mind had created all this after seeing Leo act strangely. But something didn't sit right. And honestly, I think deep down I knew. This wasn't just in my head. I decided to talk to my sister again. I asked her if she remembered anyone named Uncle Igor. Her face dropped. She didn't say anything for a long time. Then she finally admitted something she hadn't told me before. She said when we were little we had a great uncle who lived with us for a short time. Our parents never spoke about him much. She barely remembered him. But she did recall that one day he just disappeared. No one ever explained it. She only remembered his cold stare and the way he'd hum to himself while sitting alone in the basement. I asked her if she'd gone down there again since I did. She said no. I told her not to. But Leo, he was different after that. Like something had lifted. He started talking again, laughing, drawing normal stuff. No more black figures. No more basement staircases. Whatever had attached itself to him, whatever had followed him up from the dark, it was gone. Or it had moved on. I thought I was done with it. I thought maybe I'd closed a chapter that had been haunting my family for generations. But then last night I got a message. No number, just a file. An image. It was a photo of me, sleeping, and behind me, barely visible in the shadows, that same pale face, that same smile. Uncle Igor was never imaginary. He was waiting, and now I think he's finally found who he was looking for. If you've heard this story, then someone else has seen it too. And that means I might be free. But it also means, you're next. Be careful what you watch at night.